Hello. It is our distinct pleasure to welcome you to a candid conversation for your edification.
We are a group of people who have discovered that honesty and authenticity reside at the core of how we navigate through life.
We use our experiences and perspectives to consistently and intentionally build each other up.
We speak life and we speak truth.
We honor the capacity within ourselves, within each other, and within all of you.
We honor the journey and we honor the growth.
Join us as we speak candidly,
as we speak truth to power
and to the process.
And we promise that you will leave this experience
more full,
more uplifted,
and more edified.
Hey friends.
Hey friends.
Hope you guys are doing well. As you can see, we are again on Zoom because of what? COVID.
Anyway, Chile.
I know. Gotta let me COVID. So we just out here trying to be safe, but we wanted to come to you for a special edition episode for New Year.
Mm-hmm.
So Adam, how are you doing?
So, well, for me, okay, so for me, the break between like Christmas and New Year's is always a time of like reflection, because the hustle and bustle of the Christmas, season, all that kind of stuff is kind of over. We're kind of awaiting New Year celebrations. So I think for me, it's like a time of pause. And so in this time of pause, I do a lot of reflecting, and I do a lot of sitting and looking off. And it just has put me into a space where I'm able to process things and do it in a way that hopefully will resonate with others. So Lydia, what about you?
Quite similar. It is a time of kind of sitting, getting some things in order, closing out some of the things that I needed to close out for the year, because just more spiritually, holistically, like I just don't want to carry certain baggage, certain weight into the new year. So that's just my sentiments, and of course, a lot of looking off.
A lot of looking off.
We got a couple of extra guests, y'all, so we want to make sure we share their stories too. So we have Leo and Brandon Johnson, part of our ACC team. Both of their last.
So Lydia, who are Leo and Brandon? Who are they?
So Leo is our chief financial officer, as well as many other things. He's also AKA our manager, sometimes our pimp, our corrector, like all of those things. Just kidding about the things. And then we also have Brandon Johnson. He is our chief operations officer, who keeps us in line and in check, and just all the checks and balances that are there. He fills in all of the gaps, which sometimes there can be many, and he just does whatever needs to be done. So welcome. You guys have probably seen them on a couple of episodes. If you haven't, you go back and look at them.
Go back and look at them.
Go back and check.
So we this episode, like Lydia said, this is a special edition. So if you watched this previously, we had like interview style, and we have kind of like a structured like theme for our shows. But this time, because we have the ACC family together virtually, because it is the end of the year, because 2020 has been such a interesting year, we want to just offer to everybody a special edition. So this is just us talking freely and candidly about just our individual reflections on 2020. And we hope that the words that we say and the reflections that we have to offer do resonate with you on some level. And hopefully we can all walk away from this year and into the next year with maybe a renewed sense of purpose, maybe a renewed sense of resolve, maybe a renewed sense of energy, who knows? But hopefully some kind of renewal might happen.
Absolutely. And before we do that, we want to acknowledge one of our other members, who is our Chief Production Officer, Dr. Kyle Williams. Dr. Kyle Williams right now is on vacation, enjoying living his best life. So we miss you, we love you, and you are not forgotten, and we can't wait till you get back.
Yeah, right.
All right. So as you mentioned about being reflective and just kind of thinking about what we do, like I want to toss it over to Leo and Brandon. What does this time between Christmas and New Year's really mean for you? Leo, you can go first.
I'll go first. The time between Christmas and New Year. Uh, it is a time for me to reflect and think about all the things that I did throughout the year and what I want to do in the next year. Usually I set goals, long, like I guess they're not long-term goals, but I set goals for the year, overarchingly, and then try to get those things done on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. So I try to look at what I set out to accomplish and see if I actually did accomplish those things. And whatever I didn't accomplish carries over into the next year, and then whatever new things I want to accomplish, I'll put on the list of things to do. So, and I usually take a break. Usually, I don't really take too many long vacations throughout the year, but I usually try to take like as much time off as possible. So it's usually around this time where I kind of take a break from uh, work. So.
Awesome. Brandon, what about you? Yes.
So if you're just on audio and you don't see the video, Brandon just put up a sign like a celebration that says goodbye 2020. So that's what we're laughing at.
It could spin, it could twirl, it could stand on his head, but it's what's happening. We're saying goodbye. But really, like, that's how I feel. It's been a crazy year, for lack of a better word. There are a lot of more words I could say, but we keep it classy and edified on the show, so I ain't gonna say that. But it's just but my candidness, we can't have that. But no, it's just been a crazy year. But something that I've found that's been so beautiful throughout this year is that people have really found their purpose out of life. I think in so many different ways, because of COVID and just because of everything that's been happening, people have had to stay at home. Some people have had to, pivot in terms of, jobs or just, like their sense of security out of life. But I think that some folks have really used the time to really explore different facets of themselves, which has caused people to open up doors for new business opportunities, new things, or just new passions out of life that they thought they never had, right? And I think that that's been something that's been beautiful for me to see, particularly just with all the blessings that I've been given. That's something that I'm thankful for and everything.
Okay. I love it. Especially just as difficult as this year has been, and as difficult as we may have had it at different points in terms of adjusting and becoming more and more resilient, I think there's a level of thanks that we can all probably give and appreciate. And that's really kind of my sentiment for 2020 as well. If I look back in terms of like an open letter, what would I say to 2020? And I think would be a sense of gratitude, to be able to explore new avenues, to do things that I didn't have time to do. So with the time that people were given, I'm always, I've been asking people, I'm like, what did you do with the time that was given to you? It may not have come in the way that we thought it was going to come within 2020. But I do definitely think that there was a lot of people understanding what their vision is, their purpose is, and discovering new things about themselves. What do you think about that, Adam?
So just to echo Brandon and you, Lydia, pivot is pivot is like a word that I can really use a lot for this year in a lot of dimensions of my life. Pivoting with relationships, pivoting with friendships, pivoting with professional opportunities, pivoting with personal resolutions throughout the year. So I think pivot is the word to use because we've been forced to reevaluate things in ways that we would not have been able or willing to do had it not been for a pandemic. What I again, like if we were to use like the theme of an open letter, what I would write to 2020 is there are nuggets of gratitude for sure. There's nuggets of gratitude because I have been able to sit still. And I know that's a privileged stance because I've had opportunities professionally and personally that have allowed me to sit and not having to worry about safety in ways that others have had to worry about it, worry about economic stability in ways that others have to worry about it. So I feel privileged that I've been able to sit and to pivot and to really refocus and readjust. So in that way, I do reserve a little bit of gratitude for 2020 in those ways, because actually, when it comes to my life personally, today and going into the new year, I'm in a pretty good place, and I feel very thankful to be able to say that. So that's kind of where I am right now.
That's awesome to hear. What about you, Leo?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, believe it or not, like I think all of you said, I have thanks for 2020. I mean, ironically, 2020 was bad for some people, but ironically, I look at the actual year 2020 representing perfect vision, and honestly, it did allow me personally to see things clearly. I hope it allowed a lot of people to see things clearly, even if this year had some bad times and some bad things happening in other people's lives. I hope 2020 allowed people to see clearly what it is they need to do. Like you said, finding their purpose, starting new things. Because before 2020, I feel like everyone was so busy and wrapped up in work and on the go and on the move. I have to get here, I have to get there. And then all of a sudden you had to sit down. And it's like, well, what do I do? And I think a lot of people, hopefully, was able to, like I said, see clearly. 2020, it's just ironic that it's the year 2020, which represents perfect vision. So I hope some people caught that irony and actually were able to see clearly. Because like I said, I know some bad things happen in a lot of people's lives, but if you're still here with us, you have another day. I hope and pray that you're able to cope with whatever those bad things are, and look at the good things that happen, and keep moving forward into 2021 with strength, and this clear vision that I hopefully the year brought. So I think it was a year for clarity. That's what I see it as.
So so thank you all. Like, so I think that it's clear that we all are thankful in ways for having gone through this year in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of a lot of other uncertainty and instability. But I kind of want to hashtag pivot the conversation in another direction, because while we are thankful for some things about, within 2020, I want to reserve some space in the conversation to talk about just some challenges that we've endured, because I know many of us have endured challenges. So I want to offer to our listeners the ways that we've endured those as well.
Yeah. Randy, you want to kick us off?
Why you ask me go first? It's been hard. For those of y'all that don't know, job security was something that was taken from me. Unfortunately, during this year, I was about to say this past year, like y'all, like when I say like I'm ready to say goodbye, I'm ready to say goodbye. But even in that, even though I lost, my sense of security just with income and everything, I still have to remind myself that that like it's okay, it's okay, and that things happen for a reason. And honestly, I have to also allow myself to feel all the feels, because I think that's something that we don't do enough as human beings is just feel. Because going off of what Leo had mentioned earlier, is that we're always just busy. We're just constantly on the go, constantly inundated with so many different methods of communication, like stimulating things. Like it's just so much that's happening. We don't really get an opportunity just to sit and just deal with the fact that, wow, like I just lost my job. Like, oh wow, like I just lost, a family member or a friend or somebody that's significant to me, because the pandemic has taken away so many lives. And I think that that's something that I would encourage folks to do, is that before you transition over into 2021, feel all the feels, and just sit with everything that's happened, and just recognize and just own that it's okay to feel all that. And don't let anybody take that away from you. That like, wow, like I feel angry, I feel upset, I feel hurt. Feel all that. And then just watch how like free you become because you finally let all that out. That's my 2 cents.
Feel all the feels. Hashtag.
I mean, I want to sit in that space because that's so important, Brandon. Like how often do we try to gloss over hard things or gloss over hard feelings or hard emotions or unpleasant, uncomfortable emotions? We try to like gloss over them and try to keep ourselves busy or keep ourselves moving so we can try to ignore it. But that doesn't really work. All it does is fester and it comes out in unhealthy ways. So, but if we actually take the time to prioritize our emotions, and value ourselves enough to know that we can do these things and sit with them, how much better off will we be? So like, I'm thanking for saying that and surfacing that. Feel all those feels. So like I'll go after that. I mean, we can really just kind of sign off from there, don't you think, Lydia? That was pretty good. But I will go. And so I think one of the challenges I've dealt with this year is more so interpersonal relationships, because what we do know is that there are levels of relationships. There's levels of friendships. There's levels of connection. And I think what I have had to really come to a realization about is that just because you hang out with somebody on the weekends and drink with them doesn't mean y'all are true friends for real. And what the pandemic has helped me to realize is that, well, A, we're not really going out like we typically do. We're not really partying like we typically do. So how do I redefine and reimagine friendships? Is it and how important is it for me to do that? And I think that I just had to sit with I've had to sit with a lot of disequilibrium there, because I realized that those whom I thought were friends may not have given me what I needed, as far as what I need in friendships. And it's not that I've had to get rid of people per se, but I've had to definitely sit with myself and say, like, what is it that I really want from this interaction, from this relationship? Do I value myself enough to want more from this relationship? Because it's not giving me what I need, right? So let me prioritize myself more, and value myself more to speak up and move differently when I need to. So for me, really having to revalue interpersonal relationships has been something that I've been dealing with off and on pretty much the whole year.
I can agree with that. Definitely. I'll go next. For me, I think 2020 has been a year of becoming a self-advocate. So a self-advocate in health, in relationships, in career, and pretty much like every aspect of life. And, sitting with the emotions of, one, just feel it. And it's okay to feel it, because as a female, a lot of times we're told, like, just keep going, keep pushing and stuff like that. Put your head down, be quiet, it's fine. And this year, I finally said, no, it's not. And literally having to go through one of the most challenging parts of my life, especially when health is an issue, really made me see that, and really made me start taking inventory and stock of, like, what's really going on with me. And you need to prioritize yourself, because a lot of times you're taught to do for others and, be selfless and self-sacrificing. And 2020 made me really look at it and said, well, who's sacrificing for me? So if I'm not good for myself and if I'm not okay, how can I be an advocate or be purposeful for others and to live in that purpose? So that's what it's been for myself. Yeah, what about you?
For me, I've been thinking about it since you asked the question, and I'm like, wow, what has actually been a challenge for me? And the thing that keeps coming up is watching everyone else go through 2020. That was the challenge, watching everyone around me go through it. You guys know me, and anyone out there that's watching it knows me, knows that I usually, even before 2020, usually, I don't really look at life as a whole bunch of challenges, and I always look at them just hurdles I have to get over as I'm running through life, like on a track. And this year was no different. I always look at hurdles as just obstacles I'm going to get around at some point. But the struggle for me this year, speaking of like slowing down, was actually, I don't think I've ever really did it as much before 2020, which was to actually sit around and watch everyone around me actually, as Brandon said, feel. I was like, as you guys know, I probably, I'm not a big feeler, but I was actually this year able to get closer to people because I couldn't go anywhere. I wasn't always working. I couldn't go and be like, I'm about to do this. I'm about to do this business deal. I'm about to go here. I got this meeting. I'm like, I got to sit on the phone and, everyone's calling me and I actually was like, hey, this is great for y'all. Y'all always say you can't catch me. My mom, my sister, my grandmother, all the family and friends that's not in St. Louis, they're like, we can never get a hold of you. I'm like, well, you can now. And like Adam said, you end up kind of realizing, really who your friends and family are. And so yeah, this year, this time was the most hard thing to do was sit around and watch people go through things like as you know, my girlfriend, like things like not being able to graduate a walk if you graduated this year. That, the year, last year, anytime before 2020, I probably wouldn't have thought about it the same way. But I wasn't walking in it, and it still hurt me, right? It's like, dang, she can't walk, her friends can't walk. That's something that you work so hard for 4 years to get a doctor's, and it's like you can't enjoy it. People had birthdays that they couldn't celebrate, and these things seem so trivial until 2020 comes along, and it's like, dang, when you can't have it because no one. It's not that someone took it away from you. Is like life literally happened. And there's no one, you can't beat anybody up or yell at anybody for it. Can't be like, I'm gonna go punch this person in the face, and there's no one to be mad at. It's just like, wow, you just have to sit. I just had to sit here and watch everyone go through it, and that was the hardest thing for me to do this year. It's like, wow, like, dang, sorry that happened. You guys, some people like, oh yeah, I lost my friend to COVID. I lost my dad. And I'm like, what? Wow. And like, I can't remember which one of you said it. You can't just be like, oh, okay, wow, now I'm distracted by work or I'm distracted by this meeting. It's like, no, I got to sit at home and think about what my friend, my loved one just told me. And it hits home even for someone who doesn't feel a lot like me, as you guys know. I was feeling it this year. So.
But I think I think that that's something that people need to realize. There was actually something on Instagram that I actually saw, and it was from a therapist that I follow. Hashtag normalized therapy in 2021. But there's a therapist. Her name is Nidra Glover Tawwab. Absolutely love her stuff. She posted something. I think it was honestly yesterday or 2 days ago, something like that. It was from basically lessons from 2020. And one of the things that she said was, we are collectively grieving and people grieve differently. So, some people are probably grieving the fact that they may have lost somebody that's significant to them. People may be grieving the fact that, wow, like I don't look the way that I used to look, or like I don't feel the way that I used to feel. Like that, when I say feel all the feels, that's a caveat with that. You need to recognize that people grieve differently. People feel differently. So just because they're not giving you the reaction that you would hope for them to have, That doesn't mean that they're not being impacted by it. But like, even like in a pandemic in 2020, which I think will literally go down in history as one of the most unconventional years ever, we all need community support. We all need to be surrounded by the folks that fill our cups up. That's also, if I'm putting a letter into 2020, that's something 2020, I needed community support. And you tried to take it from me, but you didn't. There.
And to kind of pivot from there, along with what you said, like we talked about, you know, what we would like to say to 2020, what our reflections were for 2020, but going into 2021, knowing what we know now, feeling what we felt, reflecting, what things that you did differently this year will you take with you to 2021? Don't all answer at one time.
Leo.
I mean, I know at least one of the things I'll take out of 2020 on forward is exactly what I said. Actually, purposely taking the time to feel. I don't think I did that enough before. I was always in my head, and I think, like Brandon said, you got to take the time to feel. You got to have balance. So I definitely will go into 2021 and every subsequent year thereafter, trying to at least trying to allow myself to feel what's around me. So, yeah.
What about you, Adam?
So, kind of echoing what Leo said, like purpose and intentionality. So to echo the sentiments that y'all said earlier, like, you know, autopilot and being busy and those things, they're not really serving us in ways that we thought they were. So to be purposeful in everything, to be intentional in everything, that's movements in work, movements in play, movements with friends and loved ones, movements with myself, how I spend my alone time, why I spend my alone time this way, and not just doing things because I'm used to doing them this way. Because if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that normalcy is only as stable as the environment that allows it to be stable. Normalcy is kind of a figment of our imaginations, really, because nothing's really normal. And so to kind of divorce myself of that notion more intentionally is what I hope to do in 2021 and years following, to divorce myself of the notion that this is just how things are done, or this is just the status quo, and that we have the power to change. The pandemic has told us that we have to change. We're changing, and we have to do it. And it's okay to do it. It might feel uncomfortable at first, or for a while, but we know how important it is to have to change and adjust. So I vow to kind of stay or dwell in that more fully, because I now know how important it is to be able to do that for myself, and to have to do that in order to live a more fulfilled life.
Brandon?
It's so funny because when I was on Facebook earlier, y'all know how they had like those Facebook quizzes, and you be so shocked at the results, and you like, how they notice about me. That's crazy. But one of the quizzes that I took was, what did you learn this year? And the response I got was very on point with what I've been reflecting on, what I've actually thought about. And it said, I've learned, well, this is what I'm telling myself. I've learned that it isn't selfish to say no. I deserve to take care of myself the way I take care of others, and I deserve to make myself a priority. And for those of y'all that don't know how much all the behind the scenes stuff goes with ACC, y'all, it's when Lydia says I fill in gaps, that's literally what I love to do for people, is to fill in gaps, is to try to make sure that everybody has what they need to be successful. But for those of you that are like, yeah, Brandon, like I feel the exact same way. You got to make sure that you pour into your cup. You have to make sure that you are staying filled, that you are getting the relief that you need, and you can't do it all by yourself. You can't, because you're gonna literally end up running yourself ragged, and and not feeling that, like, I don't feel like myself. The reason you don't feel like yourself is because you're doing everything for everybody instead of doing everything for you. So to anybody who will listen to this, when was the last time you actually took yourself out? When was the last time you actually traveled? Just because I'm like, you know what? I want to go somewhere. Now be careful when you go now, because of COVID hotspots. That's my hashtag disclaimer. But when was the last time you did something for yourself where it was just something that you wanted and it was not something that somebody else wanted you to have? So I said it to challenge folks who say, like, that's my story, that's something that I can relate to. You got to learn how to say no. And you got to learn that, it's going if somebody needs something bad enough and you say no, they'll ask somebody else.
Yep.
That is true.
Yeah, drop mic or pen.
And honestly, that is what I'm taking into 2021, is choosing myself the power of no.
Come on, yes, power of no.
Like, this is gonna be the year of no, thank you. I'll pass. I'm no longer serving the things that do not serve me. So I've gotten enough experience. I've gotten enough of everything. There's very little that you can say to sway me. So I'm trying to take steps now to do it, and didn't realize how difficult it was. Going outside of your norm, what is a comfort zone, the things that we find comfort in may not actually be giving us comfort, and may actually be a hindrance to us. It may actually be something that you are causing yourself to overexert in certain aspects of your life and overcompensate when you don't need to do that. And so that's what I take into 2021. So I would say to a lot of people, don't ask me. Ask Brandon, ask somebody.
No, honey, don't ask me. Get your life. Don't ask me, because I ain't got it for you. Sorry. So sorry.
I love it. I love it. So, Brandon, you have another organization called Finding Your Resistance. So talk to the people about that, because you touched on purpose, the call, and really focusing on yourself. So what, from your organization aspect, like, what do those things look like? How can people go about doing that? Because I think this year was one of those reflective years to people really want to understand what their purpose is, and going into next year, how they can make those adjustments.
Yeah. So for those of y'all that don't know, I got a lot of stuff on my plate, but one of the things I'm very, very excited about is that I founded and I serve as an executive director of an organization that is very, very near and dear to my heart. It is something that sort of came from a vision of, how do we empower folks to answer their call? The call to themselves first, but then the call to their communities, and that's where Find Your Resistance came to be. And so one of the things I'm very, very excited about is the fact that 2021 is going to be a year like no other. And I say that because we have a lot of stuff planned. But one of the things really, when I think about call and purpose, is that you can find those at different times, and it's kind of like stop looking in somebody else's lane, because their call is not your call. Because I hear so many people saying, well, I just don't know what I want to do yet. But like, I don't think it's fair that they found theirs and I haven't found mine yet. And like, I get it. You know, like that's just human nature. Like you want to feel like you know like what's going on with you personally. But sometimes finding your call and finding your purpose is a developmental process. It's something that's just going to take time. And to be quite honest, the people that I've worked with to sort of help them, you know, get on that journey, you know, when we do consultations and things like that, sometimes the people that take the most time are the gifts that are the most unique. Where it's like, I can't put what you want to do in a box. I can't restrict you. The things that I can see you potentially doing are limitless. Now it's just about how do we put that into action. So that's kind of the things that, you know, I'm so excited about, and just the stuff that we get to do for folks.
I like that. The things that are the most unique take the most time. So pontificate on that, y'all. All right. So Adam, any final words for our viewers and listeners?
So what we see on social media is that, you know, there's all these like social media, I don't know, sages or social media, like, you know, a lot beyond things in my life. It's like 2020 has taught me this, it's taught me that. Like, it's taught me to live in my purpose. It's taught me to move differently. It's taught me to feel differently. So we're getting all these messages in social media. Like, so what I kind of get a little frustrated with is that why I feel like it's like telling us how to react to 2020. Mm-hmm. So, which is, you know, regressive, because if anything, what I hope that we have learned is that we all react in the way that we are supposed to react. Some of us maybe did not feel gratitude at all, and that's okay. We should not be forced to feel a way just because our peers do. If gratitude doesn't exist in our walk this year, that's okay. If what our walk consists of is a lot of suffering and a lot of setbacks, that's okay. We should not have to feel obligated to search for the silver lining, because maybe it doesn't exist at all. And so what I want our listeners to really take from this is that, yes, these are our stories as four people who are just navigating through life. These are our stories of our 2020 experience. But I don't want the message to be that this has to be your story too. Your story is your story. Your walk is your walk, and your reaction is your reaction. But what I hope that our listeners, our viewers, and even us as a collective can continue to hold is that what's ours is ours, and we shouldn't have to apologize or second guess how we respond to things, our responses, our reactions, as long as they serve us. If it's serving us, if it's serving you, then be that and live in that, dwell in that, and don't let the newly minted social media therapists and social media life coaches try to sway you differently.
Absolutely. Final thoughts from you, Leo?
Final thoughts. Bye 2020. Hello 2021. My final thoughts can't come soon enough. No, yeah, I mean, that really is my final thoughts. I mean, like I said, it wasn't by far the best year. And I'm just waiting for 2021 to come and see what it brings. Like I said, every day is something new, and you know, we just have to wake up, and as long as we're waking up and we're breathing, just tackle that day, no matter what happens. Just tackle it.
Final thoughts, Brandon?
I'm gonna take this from again Nidra Tawa. Y'all need to follow her on Instagram. She says, this year reminded me we cannot control what happens, but we can choose how we respond. In 2021, choose how you respond, and see where that takes you.
So my final thoughts are, despite what 2020 has been to you, what it's done, how you feel it, pick the meat and throw away the bones and move forward. Tomorrow is a new day. And if you're still here, there's more for you to do. So with that said, we want to thank you for joining us on this special edition of A Candid Conversation. We hope that you leave here feeling more full.
We hope that you are more uplifted.
And we hope that you are edified.
So continue to join us for future episodes. And as you notice, we referenced previous episodes. So tune into those as well. We have a lot of good content for you. We're continuing to generate content. And of course, we have our team here to echo those sentiments. Our team works hard to make sure that the content is provided to you. So I want to thank them as well. So just stay tuned, stay with us, and we will not disappoint. So until next time,
stay edified.
Stay edified.
Bye.
Hey, friends.
Follow us on Facebook at A Candid Conversation Podcast.
Follow us on Instagram at _candid_conversation.
And for more information, email us at acandidconversationpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you. Be edified.